it fit perfectly to launch this series on IMOOIDA and what we do for our members and how all the different departments. And so it was perfect. And it started off legit a joke. And we do make fake covers around here. Trust me, we have some hilarious ones. But this turned out 100% legitimate, and it's probably one of my favorite covers at this point.
Landline Now, welcome back. We are into the month of May, and that means it's time to talk about a new edition of Landline Magazine. Managing editor Jami Jones and senior editor Mark Schremmer join me now. Thank you both for coming in.
Hey, you're welcome, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I'm very excited to talk about this issue. And usually we don't have a story before you get into the magazine, but we actually have a story about the cover of this magazine. Jami, tell me how this came about and kind of the funny story behind it.
Well, it started... Actually, we've launched a new series in the magazine, and it's focusing on the different departments in the association, the different business services that we provide to members. And the first one that we started with was permits and licensing. And there's so much that department does, but one of the things that they do a lot of is help company drivers become owner-operators with getting their own authority and everything like that. We just happened to know somebody who had recently used that department. Turns out our production assistant, Nicole Barnes, photographer, just great, talented designer. Her husband was buying his own truck and going out as an owner-operator. So he had been calling and utilizing the permits and licensing department, not telling them that he was related to anybody who worked here or anything. And I was like, and the feedback was just tremendous. And I said, we really need his testimonial. Because he didn't get special treatment. This is just how good this department is, like many others that we will feature along the way. But and so Nicole, I was like, we're going to interview Stephen and get his story. Can you get me a picture to go with the story? Sure, not a problem. Well, she decides to yank his chain a little bit and tell him that we were putting it on the cover. And he was a little nervous, freaked out. I don't know. And so we went so far as to actually build a cover with his photo on there. Debbie Johnson, our art director, ran straight at it. And it was like, okay.
Thinking this will be a joke.
Yeah. And so we wound up with this cover, and Nicole took it home and showed it to him. Had the cover headlines, everything on it, straight up legit. And he's like kind of really getting freaked out now because he's seeing it.
Like, oh my.
And we had copies of it laying around, and, we had another cover picked at that point, and it was literally the day of upload. I was like, real talk, people, this is a great cover.
Yeah. I mean, I know when I was in our morning meeting and she had it in front of her and I looked at it and I was like, this looks good. Like, this looks like a great cover. Like, what a funny joke. And then a few days later, you're like, no, we went with that.
Yeah. And Nicole at first, when I said, I'm serious, I think we want to do this, I think she thought I was messing with her at that point. But it's such, I really like it. He's just the face of the new owner-operator, and it fit perfectly to launch this series on IMOOIDA and what we do for our members and how all the different departments. And so it was perfect, and it started off legit a joke. And we do make fake covers around here. Trust me, we have some hilarious ones. But this turned out 100% legitimate, and it's probably one of my favorite covers at this point.
Yeah. I mean, drivers are out on the road all the time. They have very busy schedules. It's not often to have a chance to do a photo shoot and do that type of thing. So we had this opportunity when we looked at it. Let's pull the trigger and let's go with this. And it's one of my favorite covers that we've done in a while.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Landline can be a bunch of class clowns.
Yeah.
What? We are the rowdy kids in the back of the classroom a lot of times. So when we started having the legitimate conversation, everybody's like, "Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you really? Yeah, no."
Do we know how he reacted to this? Like, has he been
told
everything?
I wish I had brought my copy up here, because where the mailing label is blank on our
Yeah.
copies. I have an autographed version. So he's leaned in a little bit.
Okay.
He's leaned in a
He's
little
not
bit.
mad about it.
No, not anymore. He
good.
was he was the president of my fan club when I'm on the show here, and so I'll have to hear if that stays in place or not. So
Sounds good. All right. Well, let's take a look inside the magazine because there are lots of stories to cover there. Jami, I'll start with the editor's page. You really gave a good overview of what people can expect in this issue. Talk to me more about that.
Well, I've talked about it a number of times. It's just really funny to me how a theme evolves. But I know Mark shares this frustration in a lot of the coverage that we've been doing because we're just, the association's frustrated. I know truck drivers are frustrated. Lawmakers are frustrated about this continued push to go toward more and more technology on everything. And not to date myself too much, but I grew up when computers were just coming into the classroom, and there was definitely a mistrust, if you would, or a skepticism. That's probably a better way to frame it. And the phrase, which was even older than the 80s and 90s when it became popular for my generation, is garbage in, garbage out. Whatever that computer can do or its output is going to be a direct result of the programming that starts it. And so when you start having that conversation that humans are writing this programming, they're writing the programming that AI works off of, artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is going to be reusing crappy programming. You have to see this vicious circle that we're in, and then to look at all of these mandates that are being talked about and this push for technology on automated trucks, emergency braking, all these different things. It's like we have to remember this fundamental lesson about technology.
Now, we have a couple articles in this issue on autonomous trucks. Tyson Fisher, John Bendel wrote on this topic. Tyson touched on the recent panel discussion with key stakeholders with Aurora, which is a self-driving truck company that's set to deploy driverless trucks in Texas at the end of this year. What are some of the things he covered in this article, and obviously what are some of the concerns with this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole variety of concerns.
Where do we begin?
But yeah, so this forum, a lot of it was Aurora and the different AI technology providers are basically trying to convince that this technology is ready to be deployed and that it's a solution to the safety problems. But it goes back to what Jami was saying of that garbage in, garbage out. All of this, it still takes a person to put in the original data. We talk about bridge strikes is something that happens all the time. Is if you were to really unleash this all across the country, driverless trucks, who's to say that it's not putting you on a road or route that you're not supposed to be taking, weather conditions. There's so many different factors. Cybersecurity is a huge one. I know it's been talked about on this show just recently. Colorado State researchers showed that they were able to hack into an ELD on a
There's
truck.
a tease for our June issue, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not trying to give away too much there, but like I said, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to look at and go, okay, if they get into that, think about what they could do to driverless vehicles. When you talk about cargo theft, you talk about the chance of terrorist attacks, all of the different evil things that could be done if you were able to take over these vehicles. And also, there's just the safety of it. Just recently, I think Tyson also wrote a story about AAA did a public survey, and I think more than 2/3 of the public do not trust, AI driverless vehicles. I think we have a long road, pun not really intended, sort of intended, to get to the point where people are going to feel comfortable with this. There's all these promises that it's going to be safer, but I think to actually have that in practice, we got a long ways to go.
When you can't even count on your phones to work day to day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
these have more programming and computing skills than the first spaceships that went to the moon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you can't count on those to operate efficiently, we had a truck drive off a boat ramp the other day following a GPS, and that's with the driver seeing the water coming at him. It's like, wow, what is that? What's that truck going to do if there's nobody in there? And then, the emergency braking, the false braking situations and all of those that are happening. It's just, we need to be careful of how fast we're rushing in on this technological revolution that we're in the middle of.
Yeah, and going real back quick to that garbage in, garbage out, when you talk about this and automatic emergency brakings, so, OIDA for years has pushed for an extensive driver training program so that it's not garbage that you're putting in.
Correct.
So that you're putting in safe, professional drivers that know how to drive and also how to deal with obstacles and things that might not be expected or that that come about if you're a driver going across country, weather conditions, mountainous areas, all those type of things that they need to learn. But instead of doing that, the push from administration and industry for a long time has been, let's just take some duct tape. And let's try to solve this problem with technology or some sort of guardrails, as opposed to not putting the garbage in. Like make sure that we have qualified drivers to start with, pay them well, all of those things. You keep the drivers in. We have the data that shows experienced drivers are safer drivers. That's the quickest route to safety.
And the thing is, it reminds me of some old research. And I wish I had it in front of me. It just popped into my head. But how many lines of code the average person can process, their brain can process, and that there's no computer on earth that can do it as fast as the human brain. And I'm sure that they've closed that gap, I'm sure. But still, when you think of all of the weird stuff that happens out on the road and how fast you have to think and react, technology is not going to know, matter of fact, it sees shadows, and processes that wrong.
Yeah. Mark, you had brought up the automatic emergency braking systems, which I know you wrote about in here. Where are we with the U.S. Department of Transportation's final rule on that? I know we've heard a lot of opposition on this issue.
So with light vehicles, they have announced that, and they're moving forward with it. On heavy duty trucks, they still got some ways to go. It was projected to be released in April. They did not meet that timeline. Surprise, surprise. Often they don't in these sort of situations. The big thing there is that hasn't even actually been sent to the White House Office of Management and Budget for review yet. That process often takes months. Sometimes a year. I think there's one out there right now, I think through on drug testing, hair testing, that has been more than a year on review. So we don't know exactly how long it'll take, but they haven't even sent it yet. So we're looking, late into 2024 at best would be my guess.
Or maybe they just actually paid attention to some of the pushback and finally realized that maybe we're not ready for prime time here.
Yeah, and 100% they should, because right now, what was so weird when they first unveiled that rule was the same week, I believe, they announced that they were doing an investigation into all of these Freightliners and Western Star trucks that were having these false activation for braking because of, like you said, shadows or picking up a guardrail, on a curve, and sending drivers, out of control sometimes with it if there's ice or bad conditions. The technology, I think, it's been shown again and again. It is not perfected.
They need to read the room.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you both so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you.
Those are just a few of the articles in this issue, but there are much more, so make sure you get a copy of this month's issue of Landline Magazine. You can check out landline.media for the latest from the trucking industry, and if you have a news tip for us, you can contact us through our website or call 816-229-56.